The Jaipur-Mumbai train incident has shook the entire nation, and it shows that protector of the nation has become the devourer of the nation. And it also raises two questions. The one question is regarding the mental health of the police staff, and the second question is about the ethics and training and in which manner they are trained. Hello everyone, welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Ritu and today we are going to discuss an important topic. The title of today's topic is Jaipur-Mumbai train shooting and what is the role of RPF here. And this topic is important from two perspectives. So this topic is important from GS2 as well as GS4 because it can also come in your ethics part and it can also come in your polity part. So this is the topic. Moving to the points of discussion part. So first of all, we will discuss the news, that what is the news and what is the relevance of this news. And the second, we are going to discuss about the RPF, the brief history of the RPF. And the third is that how are they deployed? It means that in which area they are deployed and what are the special forces among RPF and how large is the force. It means we are talking about the strength here. And then we will discuss the guns and the RPF, that which kind of firearm or which kind of the weapons they can carry. And we will also discuss that fitness criteria among them. And at last we will discuss the practice question for prelims and mains. Today in mains we are going to discuss the ethics paper. So be careful regarding this part. Moving to the news part. So we all know that Chetan Singh, who was a police constable, has killed 4 people. It means it has killed 3 common people and 1 police staff. And there is so many speculation about this killing. The political parties are saying that this killing has happened because of the communal clash and communal hatred and communal feeling among the police staff, because the person he has killed, they all belong to the Muslim community. And the second thing is that so many people are also saying that the person was mentally ill and because of the depression and mental illness he has committed such things. So this is the brief news. We will discuss about the RPF in the later slide. So this slide is about the RPF. So what is RPF and why was it formed? So in 1957 there was an act. The name of the act was the Railway Protection Force Act. And what is the purpose of this act? To organize a force that would watch and look for the railway asset. It means that it will also look for the people and the passenger who are running through the railway. And before that, in colonial era and in 19th century, what happened, that railway force was not organized and there was no such terms for the railway force, and they were called as a company force or company police, or they can also called as a watch ward, because they are not especially designed for the railway. So they look for various matter, they work in a particular area and they are recruited by the company. So this is the difference between today's railway force and the earliest railway force. And later there was a need that they should be integrated for the special kind of the crime and to look for the special kind of the crime committed by the people, and they will also work in collaboration with the state police. And later there was a need that there should be integration of the railway force, and a different kind of force was designed whose name was the Railway Protection Force. And they were designed for a particular kind of crime which happened during the railway operation and near the railway time. And they are also advised to work in collaboration with the different state police, and their power are equal to the state police. So this is the brief about the Railway Protection Force. Moving to the next slide. So next slide is about which kind of powers they have been given. So RPF is given limited legal powers under Railway Stores Unlawful Possession Act 1966, and they have been also given power to arrest, prosecute under the provisions of Railway Act 1989. It means they can work under these 2 acts. And the power to arrest under any other penal laws rest with the state subject or state police. So it is a matter of state subject, it is not matter of the railway police. So this is the difference between state police and the railway police. Moving to the next slide, which is about how are they deployed. It means that in which area they are deployed. So we have seen that they are deployed in the ladies compartment, they are deployed in the general passenger compartment, they are also deployed in differently abled compartment, ticketing area. So in every area of the railway we can see that there is a deployment of the RPF. Moving to the next slide. So the next slide is about special forces. So among them also there is a special forces, and when this special forces was created, so during the Indo-China war there was a need that many forces needed for the war, After that, special forces was designed among the railway protection forces, and so many people are trained to work in the emergency area, and they are called as RPSF. It means Railway Protection Special Forces. So this is the brief history behind that, when this special forces under RPF was inducted. You may have a question that currently where they are working, because there is no war kind of situation in India and we are not waging any war against any country. So currently they are working under very sensitive area. It means the Jammu and Kashmir, northeastern areas, and Maoist prone area, left wing extremism area. So currently they are working under such area and they are given special training for that. Moving to the next slide, which is how large is the force. So what is the strength of the force? So currently they are 61,000. And what is the sanctioned number of the force? So their sanctioned strength is 74,830, and around 10% there are women forces among them. And in the comment section you have to answer that which of the following state has the largest number of the women forces, and your options are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Kerala and MP, which is Madhya Pradesh. So you have to answer this in the comment section. And the officer among them are inducted through the Railway Protection Force services, and so many senior officers are also inducted through the UPSC examination. So this is the brief about the strength. Moving to the next slide. So guns and the RPF. So here comes the question that, which kind of the guns and weapons they can carry, and they can carry by themselves, or is there any order related to that? So definitely there is an order related to that, and the DGP of the RPF decide that which kind of the guns and which kind of the weapons they can carry. And we have seen that there are different kind of guns and weapons they carry. So what are the different kinds? So they have the pistols, revolvers, carbines, and also the rifles like INSAS, AK-47, SLRs, light machines guns, and 303S also. And there is a particular kind of order for every kind of the weapons they have, and they can vary from zone to zone. So in one zone it could be 50%, in another zone it could be 65%, and in special forces zone it could be 100%. So what we are seeing here that any of the guns and any of the weapons could not carry any police personnel by themselves. There is a particular order and particular rules for that, and we need to maintain that. Moving ahead. So the next slide is about how are the personnel tested for fitness. This is very important question because railway has issued a statement regarding the mental health, but later it had withdrawn. But here comes the question, is the person was really mentally ill, and what is the criteria for the mental illness? So from the railway perspective and from the RPF book, we could not find any particular kind of data that in which manner there is a mental test of the railway personnel or any police personnel. But there is definitely a criteria for the physical fitness, and after every 5 years their fitness is tested, and after 45 years of the age, after every 3 years their fitness is tested. So this is about the physical fitness. We don't have much clarity about the mental fitness or mental area or mental illness. And you know that there are different kind of criteria to certify the fitness among the police personnel. So this is the brief about their fitness thing. And there is also testing for the firing as well, because this is the case of the firing. So many people are saying that, is there any particular training given for the firing, and is there any test for that also? So there is definitely a test for that. Moving to the next slide. So this is practice question for prelims. So the question is related to Railway Protection Force. First statement is it has similar powers to state government. The second is they have power to investigate and prosecute under Railway Act 1989. The third is they have discretionary power to use lethal and non-lethal force. And here they are asking the correct statement, and your options are only one, only two, all three, none. Moving to the mains part. So today we are going to solve a case study, and what this case study says. So in this case study there is an IPS officer, and in his police station, one of the sub-inspector has killed a street vendor by firing, and the sub-inspector has connection with the political party, the ruling political party, and the ruling political party is pressurizing you, it means IPS officer, to sort the issue by taking money and by giving the money to the street vendor family. So this is the case. So here they are asking that, if you are not able to solve this case, then we are going to kill you, and there is also life threat of you. So what are the ethical issues involved in this case, and what would be your course of action? So this is the two questions. So in which manner you will start your answer? So you will start your answer in a different manner. First of all, you have to write that what the above case pertains. So the above case pertains to the section 302 of the Indian Penal Code, which is murder, and this is cognizable offense and also non-bailable offense. It means under it the offender cannot be given bail, and it could be arrested without any warrant or without any court permission. So this is the intro about your case. And the second thing, they are asking about the ethical issues involved here. So in the main body part, here you will put 1, and then you will write what are the ethical issues you have. So here it's an issue of livelihood, because street vendor has died and there is the livelihood issue of his family. Right to life, because no one can take his life. Issue of duty, because being an IPS officer, it's your duty to give justice to the people. Issue of justice. Issue of corruption, because they are asking to settle the case with the money. Issue of political pressure or political propaganda. So these are the ethical issues you have, and you have to explain all these issues. Coming to the second question, they are asking that what would be your course of action. So in the second part, you will write your course of action. So first of all, you will give 3 kind of course of action. The first course of action can be that you can take the money, and you can also give the money to the street vendor family, and you can settle the issue. The second could be that, you can refuse the money, and you can complain about the sub-inspector and the political leader who is pressurizing you to take the money and sort out the issue. You can also discuss this thing into the media that, some of the political leader of the ruling party is pressurizing you to sort out the case. And you can also discuss this case with your DGP and your senior officer. And you can also go to the court that, there is a life threat because of this case. So this could be your course of action, and why you would take this kind of the course. You have to justify your also course of action, that being an IPS officer, it's your moral duty and it's your ethical duty to protect the life of the people. And if any people has killed, so it's your duty that to give punishment and to make sure that the court and the justice should be given to the person. And you can also make arrangement for the livelihood for the street vendor family, and you can recruit his wife into the ASHA program, and you can provide any kind of employment to his wife, and you can ask the state government to sponsor the education of his kids. So these kind of course of action you can take, and you have to also justify that, justice is the main priority, and you should also fulfill your duty, because you have taken the place that while performing duty, you will not indulge in any corrupt activities. So this could be your conclusion. I hope you like this lecture. If you have any queries related to this lecture, kindly ask in the comment section. Thank you.